Welcome to the Working Mumma Podcast, a show that provides real-world tips, tricks, and advice to all working mamas on how they can have a career, family, and hopefully one day break the glass ceiling. Hey, mama. Welcome back to another episode of the Working Mumma Podcast. I'm recording this early February, and I can't believe that it's only February, but I think also, I don't know about you, January seems to have just slipped by. So as I was actually chatting to someone earlier, I think I'm going to restart 2023 and actually start it with February. January is kind of like just that free month. So interesting to see how your year's going. As always, this episode is brought to you by the Working Mumma Village, the membership to support, educate and provide the community for you as a working mum. So if you're interested, definitely come on down and join the membership. I would love to support you all through the masterclasses, the community, you name it, it's there. So on to today's podcast. I'm going to be talking to you today around strategies to creating and setting boundaries as a working mum. Boundaries are definitely something that often comes up when we talk about life as a working mum. We will talk about, say, work-life integration, work-life balance. What does that actually include? And a big part of that is about the boundaries that we have. So if we say work-life balance, that there is the boundaries between work and the boundaries between, with life as well. And often, I don't know about you, definitely with me personally, those boundaries are blurred. So that's why I actually like to refer to it as work-life integration. And I probably reached my worst level of boundaries in 2/3 of the way through last year, around August, September. And I was doing my corporate job. I was working 3 days a week, but essentially doing probably 2.5 roles on top of that. It was full on. And on the days that I wasn't working, I was doing work calls, work emails. And there was a moment and a day when I had a colleague ring me and he said, gee, sounds like it's all happening there, because I had one son on the ground doing some drawing but wanting my attention, another son was crying and wanting to be held, and really it was both of them trying to say, Mum, we want your attention. It's your day off, we want to be with you. And at that moment I realised this isn't working, this isn't good. I've let the boundaries of what I want get too blurred, and it's not helping me. My mental environment wasn't great. I wasn't good in myself, and I don't think I was being good to anyone. So from that point forward, I was then reflecting, what do I need to change? How do I want it to be? So, and then even a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, I then asked people as well, like, what are you interested in, talking about with the podcast? Because I always want to make sure it's relevant and of interest to you. And a lot of people are actually saying one of the biggest challenges they've got at the moment is around boundaries and boundary setting. So that's why I want to talk to you a little bit more about today, about some strategies to creating and setting boundaries. And I'll actually start this off by asking you 2 key questions. And I asked this the other night in a masterclass that I ran for the Working Mumma Village around sort of creating foundations for the year. The first one is, where are you now? So if you had to describe yourself in one sentence, your life as a working mum, how would you describe it? Would you describe it that, it's chaos, there's lots of balls in the air, I don't know if I'm Arthur or Martha, how would you describe yourself, and where are you now? I'll let you ponder that for a moment. Then the second question I would like you to, reflect on and answer is, how do you want to be as a working mum? So if you had to rewrite that sentence, how my life as a working mum is. So is it, I feel like I've got good work-life integration. I am looking after myself. I'm spending the time that I want with my kids. I'm able to be the role model that I am for them. What is it that you want for a working mum? Your life as a working mum. I am sure that those 2 responses are different. And so that's the journey that for you as a working mum is then to be able to help you go on. And that's also a big part of what I do in the Working Mumma Village through the success path of taking on that journey. But think about it now. You're at the start, relatively the start, it's February, of 2023. how are you now and where do you want to be as a working mum? I don't have a set date on that because a lot of these things are just like different elements. There's things that come and go. But a big part about how you want to see yourself as a working mum is going to the boundaries that you set yourself around that. So the boundaries, as I talked about, that work was just becoming, I was working on my days off. For me now, checking my emails on my days off is actually something that, no, I don't want to go there. I'll check it occasionally, but not too much. So how do we go about doing this and creating and setting those boundaries? So I'm just going to run you through now a few strategies that you can use. And it's a bit of a process. So I'd say it's about a 4-step process. Number 1 is about knowing your values and your why. What is most important to you and what's non-negotiable? You'll often hear me talk about that for my husband and I, having dinner every night together as a family, generally about 5:30, 5:45, is a non-negotiable. A value for us is about having dinner together as a family and having that connection at the dinner table. Look, we all know young kids, dinner time, particularly after childcare, yes, often it's not as calm, it's never really calm, and it's often a little bit stressful, but we know that we want that time and it's the culture, the environment that we want. So for me, family time, having time with my kids is really important. Another big value for myself is about my own mental health and fitness. So I'm actually setting myself a personal challenge this year. It's about trying to go for a run when I'm working from home. So about knowing your why, it really helps with boundary setting, because otherwise you're pretty much just on that hamster wheel and you've got no idea why you should get off. But if you know in yourself what's most important, that will help set the boundaries. So if someone goes, okay, so at 6 o'clock, would you like to come and do this activity? And you're like, nope, sorry, that's family time. That's clearly there. You've just created and set that boundary for yourself. Number 2 is about identifying your boundaries. So just as I said, 6 o'clock, you want to do this? No, you've just identified a boundary. So what are those key boundaries? And often it comes back into what is your values and your why, and that help you identify those boundaries. So, for example, I will leave work around 4:30, 4:45 when I'm working in the city to be able to go home, pick up the kids from childcare, and then, husband's made dinner, so we walk in and that's done. And that's one of those things. I've also blocked out my calendar. So I work for an international company. I've blocked out my calendar between, I think it's 5 and 7:30, so no meetings can be had. Like last night, I had a meeting at 7:30 at night. I then could, and they were like, oh, no, it's too late. I said, no, it's fine. Because I've set the boundary between 5 and 7:30, that's family time. No, non-negotiable, there we go. But I didn't mind doing a meeting at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because I was allowing those boundaries. But as I said, I've set those boundaries. So really identifying what are those boundaries, what's important to you. For example, if you're working part-time, are you turning on your out of office and things like that? So think about what boundaries are important to you. Is it time? Is it space? Is it location? Because, boundary could be about physically leaving the office, and so you're not bringing work home with you, particularly if you don't want to work from home. So that number 2 is about identifying your boundaries. Number 3 is about communicating those boundaries. So sometimes it could be, boundaries with maybe family. Please don't call us, or, come over at dinner time could be, or come over for dinner. I know from a work perspective, I'm communicating my boundaries at the days I work through my email footer. I'm also turning on my out of office to say I work flexibly and I don't work Mondays. So that's a really clear way of communicating my boundaries. It could also be other things about what boundaries you've set. So you've said maybe, look, I maybe don't want to travel, and that you might be quite clear on it. Even leaving work earlier, sometimes about communicating that of, look, I'm happy to maybe log in a little bit later, but I need to leave early to pick up my kids because that's important to you, and it's about the boundary setting that you're creating. So it's about having sometimes those conversations, particularly if it's with your manager and your organisation, can be a little bit uncomfortable, but you've at least communicated it and you've had the conversation, so you might be able to find some middle ground. But again, communicating those boundaries, because one of the biggest things about when we're feeling like we're, unbalanced or not in harmony, whatever you want to use to define it, it's generally as well because about identifying and communicating those boundaries. So if people know that's what's important to you, don't do something, then you've communicated, so then you've got every reason to say, look, I've just let you know about I'm leaving work at 4:30. Please don't schedule a meeting for 5 o'clock. So just very much being clear on those boundaries, and it will certainly help you. Communication is so critical. The number 4, one of the biggest things I would say of this step is about, and I'd say this is probably the most important part, is about shifting our mindset. Often we will actually say ongoing around boundaries, like, oh, no, it's all right. I don't mind doing that. That's okay. And then it keeps happening. And then you wonder why, oh, my goodness, why am I feeling this way? And I don't have good balance. Often as well, if we're shifting our mindset of saying, no, we're doing a really good job as a working mum. I've managed to keep the kids alive. They've got food on the table. They're being educated. They've got lots of love. Right. I'm doing really well. Also in the shift of our mindset of boundaries, that sometimes there are elements of society that make you feel bad, maybe for being a part-time employee. Your output's not as big. You don't work the same amount of hours. Hey, flip the mindset. What you no doubt get done in your days, particularly if you're working part-time, is probably more than some people if they're working full-time. I know that I've reflected going, I had a lot of fat in my week when I worked full-time. I wasn't as efficient. So think about it that way. Record and reflect how much you're getting done to actually go, oh my goodness, I've got so much done today. And so it's don't feel bad about, oh, I should just do this just because I work part-time. No. You should be proud about your outputs, reflect on your outputs, even document them. So if someone's questioning you, you can say, well, I've achieved X, Y, Z. So then that way, if someone's questioning about, your boundary setting, your boundaries, because maybe you do work part-time, you've then got evidence to go back on. But also flip that mindset. So you might say, flip the mindset of, again, turning on your out of office. Okay, I've let people know that it's there. If it's urgent, they can contact me. But if it's not urgent, it can wait. I'm sure some people, there are some urgent elements. They're doctors and it is life-threatening. But to most people in the corporate world, not so much. So, just shift your mindset. Is it really that urgent? And also, what's most important to you at that time? Can it wait? And don't feel guilty for it, because it's our mindset that's making us feel guilty because of what we should be doing. And I say should in inverted commas. Remove the shoulds, but just flick the mindset and go back to what I said earlier about knowing your value, knowing your why, but shifting your mindset around, okay, these boundaries are important, this is important, the other stuff can wait. Don't let yourself get too guilty. Now, I'm going to flip it a bit as well. So a lot of people talk about, this is how you create and set boundaries and that. But I want to go one step further now, because I know that that's sometimes a bit of a challenge. But journal over maybe a week or 2 weeks and record the times that you feel that the boundaries are blurring a bit. So get out your, it could even be paper or it could even be in your phone, and might be Monday, 4:30, lines blurred, and then write the scenario about what it is. At that point in time, think about, can something be changed around? Is it your mindset or is it someone else's behaviour? So is it then that you need to communicate maybe a boundary? Is it that you need to identify and, again, communicate it back out? But record where they've been blurred, and then think about, well, also, what boundaries are working? Because often we will look at what's not working, but then also identify what is working. So my thing as well is, so the out of office. It actually really helps. I've also got people training the organisation that know that I don't work every day. So they know, they're like, are you working today? And they don't make me feel bad, but I'm like, no, sorry. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll catch up with you tomorrow. That's fine. So just identifying as well where your boundaries are being blurred, but also identifying and celebrating when those boundaries have been set and they are working. Also as well, listening to your gut. I go back to that story that I said at the start around, August, September last year, when the lines were completely blurred. They were just a watercolour and a mess of colours. It was shocking. It was also my gut that was saying to me, Karina, this isn't good. This isn't working. You need to do something about it. And I then reflected, okay, right, let's get back into turning the out of office on. So I'm being clear. I'm also saying, no, sorry, I'm not available on that day. It can wait. Or if you need something done, please let me know before my day off, before I'm not going to be in the office, and so I can get it done. So it's really being clear and also managing expectations. But my gut was saying to me, Karina, this isn't good, not good. And then further on from that, do what's best for you and your family. If you know that a boundary has been really overstepped, just hold back and even just say, look, it's not good for me and my family. Either, scrap it or do something about it, improve it. But again, do what's best for you and your family. As always, what's most important is for you and your family. It's work comes and goes, but your values, your why, your family around you is what's going to be your framework and really going to be showing you what's most important. So, a bit of a recap on boundaries. I hope that's helped. If it has, I would love for you to let me know. I had someone reach out to me just this week and said how much the podcast is helping her. So if the same thing's happening to you, I would love for you to leave a rating and review. Even just let me know. I have to say, it honestly made my day. My aim is to always help one other person with this podcast. And if that's you, amazing. So we go back I'll start from, just recap. Where are you now? Where do you want to be as a working mum? So just think about where you are and how is it going to make you think, feel, and what, and live that life. And then from that as well, that will be one element of helping you define some boundaries. Okay, so in boundary setting, there's 4 different components. Number 1, know your why. Number 2, identify those boundaries. Number 3, create those boundaries. And number 4 is about shifting your mindset to support the implementation of those boundaries and being really clear on what's important and what's non-negotiable. So ongoing to help you manage those boundaries is about recording when they may have been blurred and reflecting on what you may be able to do or implement to avoid that happening again. And also acknowledging when good boundaries are working. Another one, listen to your gut. And finally, do what's best for you and your family. As always, as I said, leave a rating or review. Really good luck with setting boundaries. And I hope this episode helps you set you up for success in 2023. And so you actually got really good work-life integration. I don't think there's ever really balance between work and life. So that's why I say that there's integration. So best of luck. As always, love you to let me know how you go with it and have a fantastic day and speak soon.
Thank you for listening to the Working Mumma Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favourite podcast catcher. Please also feel free to contact me on any of the Working Mumma social channels. Remember, Mumma is MUMMA, or website www.workingmumma.com.au. I would appreciate you to share this podcast with friends and colleagues, especially those that are parents managing the juggle. And I would really appreciate if you had to take the time out to leave a review of the podcast. Thank you and see you next time. Have a great week.